You turn the handle and nothing comes out. Not a splutter, not a trickle, just a hollow sound somewhere deep in the wall. Air moving through pipes that have carried water every single day of your life. Most people believe they know how this story goes. 3 days without water, everyone's heard the number. But here's the truth. In a city, almost nobody dies of thirst. What actually happens when the water stops is stranger, faster, and far more dangerous than being thirsty. And the first people in your town to find out won't be chosen by luck. They'll be chosen by altitude. And this is how long you could actually survive if the water stopped. Let's start with why it stopped at all. Water doesn't arrive at your house by magic, and it doesn't arrive by gravity alone. It arrives because of electricity. Intake pumps pull it from rivers and reservoirs. Treatment plants clean it. Booster stations push it uphill mile after mile all day, every day. In most towns, the water system is one of the single largest users of electricity the local government operates, which means water failure is almost never its own disaster. It's the second act of a blackout. If you've seen my video on the power grid going down, you already know how fragile that first domino is. This is what falls next. In February of 2021, when Winter Storm Uri collapsed the Texas grid, the story in the headlines was the cold and the dark. But the disaster that followed people home was water. Hundreds of public water systems disrupted, millions of people told to boil whatever still came out of the tap. The power failed first, the water failed second, and came back last. So the pumps have stopped. Here's the part nobody expects. The water doesn't stop everywhere at once. Above your town, on a hill or a tower, sits a tank. That tank is why your shower works during a normal power cut. It holds pressure by gravity alone, no pumps needed. But gravity has rules. A tank can only push water to houses that sit below its own waterline, so as the level inside it falls, the water retreats downhill. The highest streets go dry first, the lowest streets flow longest. 2 houses, same town, same pipes, same disaster. One family has water for another full day, the other has nothing by lunchtime. And it was decided entirely by the elevation of their front door. And that tank is draining faster than it should, because the moment word spreads, every household does the same thing at once. Bathtubs, bottles, saucepans, kettles. A demand spike the system was never designed for, pulling the towers down in a fraction of the time they'd last on a normal day. By the end of day 1, the taps are failing across town. And now something much worse begins. Something happening underground, out of sight, that most people have never heard of. Your water pipes leak, all of them. Every distribution main under every street has cracks, joints, and pinholes, and it runs through soil alongside sewers below the water table. Under normal conditions, that's fine, because the water inside is pushed outward at higher pressure than anything outside. The leaks all point one way, out, lose the pressure, and the flow reverses. Groundwater, soil, sewage, pulled inward through the same tiny defects, into the pipes that feed your kitchen tap. The water was clean when it left the plant. It's the journey to your house that poisons it. This is the real reason boil water notices exist. Not because something got into the reservoir, because the pressure dropped. And the moment it did, the pipes themselves became the contamination source. When your water sputters back for an hour looking perfectly clear, that's the most dangerous glass in this entire story. So the taps are dry, and what's left in the pipes can't be trusted. Time to open your emergency supply. You don't think you have one. You do. It's just not in the kitchen. The single largest reserve of clean drinking water in most homes is the water heater, a sealed steel tank, typically 40 to 50 gallons in an American household. That's more than a week of drinking water for a family, sitting in a closet, and almost nobody thinks of it as storage. Getting it out is the opposite of instinct. Open a tap at the bottom of a dead system and nothing comes. The water is held in place by vacuum, like liquid trapped in a drinking straw with your thumb over the end. You have to lift your thumb. Open the highest faucet in the house to let air in at the top, then drain from the valve at the bottom of the tank. The toilet holds a reserve too, not the bowl, the cistern on the back. That's clean supply water, the same water that comes out of your tap. So here's where the story should end. You've got 40 gallons, drinking water for weeks. You've survived, right? This is where the number everyone knows falls apart. Because 3 days without water was never really a fact about the human body. There is no fixed clock inside you, counting down 72 hours. Survival without fluid is set almost entirely by how fast you're losing it. Temperature, humidity, exertion, shade. A person resting in a cool house is on a completely different timeline from the same person hauling containers in summer heat. The rule of threes isn't biology, it's a weather forecast. And it has a cruel corollary written in the case files of survival medicine. People have been found dead of dehydration, with water still in their containers. They rationed, they sipped carefully, saving it for later while working in the heat, and later never came. If you remember one thing from this section, make it this: when you're losing water fast, you drink to need. The place to store water is inside your body. Your greatest survival move in a water outage isn't finding more, it's losing less. Stay still, stay cool, stay in the shade. So with a drained water heater and a cool house, thirst won't take you in 3 days. Honestly, thirst may never take you at all. Because something else breaks first, something no one puts on the survival posters: the toilet. Drinking is a small fraction of what a household actually uses water for. The overwhelming majority is sanitation, and sanitation is the system that turns a shortage into an emergency. Every flush you've ever taken was carrying waste away from the place you sleep. When that stops, the waste stays. In an apartment building, multiply it by every household, on every floor, in the heat for days. History is blunt about what happens next. In sieges, in refugee camps, in cities after disasters, the thing that harms people at scale has almost never been thirst. It's disease, moving from waste to hands to food to mouths: dysentery, cholera, gastroenteritis. The humanitarian standard for basic survival isn't the couple of quarts a day you need to drink. It's roughly 4 gallons per person per day, and most of that gap is hygiene. You don't die of thirst in a city, you get sick in one. And while that clock ticks inside every building, the town itself is carrying a second faster fuse. Every fire hydrant on every corner is just a tap on the same dead network. No mains pressure, no hydrant. And this arrives at the worst possible moment: a population suddenly running generators, camp stoves and candles. San Francisco, 1906. The earthquake broke the city's water mains, and it was the fires afterward, burning for days with the hydrants dry, that destroyed most of the city, not the shaking. When a city loses its water, it's a fire event before it's ever a thirst event. By now, someone in your household is pointing at a pot on the stove, saying the thing everyone says: just boil it. Careful. Boiling is the right answer to exactly one kind of bad water: biological. Bacteria, viruses, parasites. Heat kills them. But if the problem is chemical, a spill, a treatment failure, contamination drawn into the mains, boiling does nothing to remove it. Worse than nothing. Boiling takes pure water away as steam and leaves the chemicals behind, more concentrated in every pot than they were in the tap. That's why utilities issue 2 completely different warnings: boil water and do not drink. Confusing one for the other means carefully preparing something worse than what you started with. The same trap catches people eyeing the neighbor's swimming pool. Pool water is loaded with stabilizer chemistry that boiling won't touch. It's a genuine treasure in an outage, for flushing, for washing, for the sanitation clock we just talked about. But it's a utility reserve, not a drinking reserve. At this point, you might be waiting for the cavalry, the trucks, the pallets of bottled water on the news. Do the math with me, because almost no one ever does. Water weighs about 8 pounds per gallon. At the humanitarian minimum of 4 gallons per person per day, a city of 1 million people needs 4 million gallons every single day. That's more than 15,000 tons of water daily, on damaged roads with dead traffic signals and dry gas pumps. The pallets you see on the news are real, and they matter. For a neighborhood, for a shelter, for a day. But against a whole city, they are a rounding error. There is no version of this where trucks replace the network, which is why, in 2018, when Cape Town, a city of millions, came within weeks of becoming the first major city in the modern era to shut off its taps entirely, the plan that saved it wasn't resupply, it was restraint. The city drove consumption down to a hard ration of about 13 gallons per person per day, and the countdown to day 0 kept getting pushed back until the rains returned. The network survived because the demand shrank to fit it. And when your own outage finally ends, when the fault is fixed and the pumps restart, here's the last thing nobody warns you about. The water doesn't just come back on. You can't simply force water into miles of empty air-filled pipe. Do it fast and the pressure surges, water hammer, snap more mains than the original failure broke. So the system is refilled slowly, zone by zone, then flushed, then disinfected, then tested, with samples that take days to culture before anyone can say the word safe. The repair is usually the fastest part of the entire disaster. The restoration is the long tail. And it's why boil notices so often outlive the outage that caused them by a week or more. Even inside your own walls, the returning water carries a sting. Water that sat stagnant in dead plumbing loses its disinfectant and grows biofilm. And in large buildings, that's a documented breeding ground for Legionella, a bacterium you don't drink, you inhale. In the midst of the first hot shower everyone has been desperate to take. The tap turning back on is not the end of the danger, it's the last trap in the sequence. So, how long could you survive if the water stopped? Here's the honest verdict. If it's just you, in a temperate climate in your own home, and you know about the tank in the closet, you're not a 3-day story. Between the water heater, the cistern, and staying cool, you could drink for 2 weeks or more. Thirst is the threat you'd beat. But you don't live in just you live in a system, and the system's clock is faster than yours. Within roughly 3 days, a city without water is a city without sanitation, without firefighting, without functioning hospitals, a place becoming dangerous to be healthy in. Your body could last weeks, your city has about 3 days. And that's the quiet lesson under this whole scenario. Every diagram in this video, the towers, the pressure, the pipes drinking the ground, was working silently for you today, and you never saw any of it. The most important survival system in your life is one you've never once had to think about. Turn the handle tomorrow and listen to what comes out.